Hello, 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 and welcome. I welcome you to another broadcast of Pain and Abuse, Mental Health and Ministry. I am your host and the founder of Pain and Glory, Chelselia Cookie Payne, and the administrator of this particular initiative, Pain and Abuse, Mental Health and Ministry. Listen, I'm super excited to be sharing with you guys on tonight. Tonight is a little bit special to me, especially because when Pain and Abuse first started, when we first got underway. The it was 7 years ago. Pain and Abuse, not Pain and Glory. Pain and Glory started in 2005. However, the initiative Pain and Abuse started 7 years ago, coming up on 8 years. It's amazing. We started out with an event that we held in the beginning of the year in 2014, which was entitled Pain and Abuse, Domestic Abuse in the Church. And what happened was in the same exact year, something that we don't typically do here at Pain and Glory, but we found ourselves doing, which was having the same or similar event within the same year. You know how things we do annually, but this time we were led by God to have the same or similar event, but in the same year. So in November of the same year, this month, we held a second Pain and Abuse, but it was called Serving with Broken Pieces. And this was a dynamic event. Oh my goodness. It was, as a matter of fact, you may see some snippets and some tidbits that I may be sharing here on social media in the coming weeks and coming days. But anyway, this one stood out because it was so relevant at the time, and it still is relevant. Um, we wanted to reach out to those or have something that spoke to the leaders, not just in ministry, but leaders in business, those who are entrepreneurs, leaders in the homes, those who were parents and teachers and leaders, and people who were serving in whatever capacity God blessed them to serve in, but they were broken, right? They were serving in capacities that were designed for them, but broken. And for whatever reason, if you've been with me for any amount of time, you may have heard me talk about or teach on the person in the Bible called Mephibosheth. Mephibosheth was lame at birth. He had a nurse that took care of him, and at 5 years old, a lot of things happened in his family's lives. There were a lot of deaths that took place. One was death by suicide, and the other two were death by war. But in the haste or in the urgency of getting Mephibosheth to safety, his nurse, his caregiver, his caretaker, the person that was given the charge of making sure that he was all right, in her haste, she dropped him. In essence, making a bad situation worse. Uh, so, and unintentionally so. And so we find ourselves like that in similar situations in our lives where we find ourselves dropped by people who may not have meant to or may have been intentional. I don't know what individual situations and circumstances may have been or may even currently be. But tonight, we're going to be talking about serving while broken. We're going to tweak it a little bit. We're not going back 6, 7 years, but we're going to take a little bit from that last 7 years ago, the serving with broken pieces event that we had, and we are going to bring it up to 2021. We're going to be talking about the blessing, the breaking, and the building. So if you would just stick with me for just a little bit, I am going to share with you just a little bit of what I hope will be a blessing to you. So let's then just get started. So I'm sharing my screen with you, and I'm hoping that you guys can see the screen well. So we're talking about serving while broken, serving while maybe there's a hurting heart or there is a misunderstanding, miscommunication, right? And this can work, against us or for us, depending on the situation, right? It can work against us if we hold on to it and harbor it It can work against us. It can work against us if we allow it to fester and begin to mess with our psyche. It can begin to that brokenness in us. If we don't see the beauty in it, we'll miss the blessing. And in essence, but we remove ourselves from the ability to build. So let me get into what I mean by that. I have here a list of different people in the Bible, and you can absolutely think of people that you know in your everyday lives, and you might even be able to add yourself to this list of how God uses the broken. Noah was a drunk. Abraham was too old. Isaac was a daydreamer. Jacob was a liar. Leah, they say, was ugly. Joseph was abused. Moses had a speech impediment. He had a stuttering problem and was a murderer. Gideon, he was afraid. And Samson had long hair and was a womanizer. Rahab, she was a prostitute. Jeremiah and Timothy were too young. David, David, David had an affair. He's an adulterer and a murderer. Elijah was suicidal. Isaiah preached naked. Jonah ran from God. Naomi was a widow. Job went bankrupt. Peter, he denied Christ. The disciples fell asleep while praying, no doubt with Jesus now. Martha worried about everything. And then the Samaritan woman, she was divorced. And Zacchaeus was too small. Paul was too religious. Timothy had an ulcer. And my God, Lazarus, well, Lazarus was dead. God uses the broken. And I'm sure that in this list of people that we find in the Bible, we can find ourselves somewhere in here, or either, as I said a moment ago, find out where we fit in here. We can find a place for ourselves in here. God uses the broken. But there's a breaking before the blessing. I want you to take a moment and think about this. When we think about when Jesus broke bread with the disciples right before he was crucified, the scripture tells us that Jesus broke the bread. He broke the bread and then served the bread to the disciples. The first thing he did after he took the bread was he blessed it. See, we got to put yourself in the place of the bread that was in the hand of the Father, right? Jesus blessed the bread, broke the bread, and then served the bread to the disciples. After he blessed the bread, he broke it. He broke it. The blessing came before the breaking. I want you to take a moment. I want to let you know that God blessed you before you were broken. He knew us before we were formed in our mother's bellies. He knew who we were designed to be. He knew what we were going to go through. He knew how much we could handle. He knew what he equipped us with. He just wanted to know if we were going to use what we were equipped with. I want you to know that God covered you before you went through that storm. Or if you're in a storm right now, you're covered. Just remember who's covering you. God anointed you before the devil attacked you. He broke you. There was a blessing before the breaking. The fact that you've been blessed beforehand is a sign that the breaking is not to kill you. I'm here to tell you that what you're going through will not kill you. The bread was being broken, but it was in the hands of Jesus. You may be feeling as though you're broken right now, but you've got to know whose hands you're in. You're in the hands of Jesus. He and his hands are on you. I want you to focus on the hands of the breaking and the intention of the breaking. Why? Why did Jesus break the bread? To serve it to the disciples. God allows us to be broken so that we can be service to others. We're talking about being broken while serving. You're broken, but you're broken in the hands of the Father. You're broken in the hands of Jesus. And what better hands to be broken in? But I want you to give this even further thought. That have been broken understand the heart of those who are already broken. When you can give empathy, when you can stand in a seat of understanding of someone that is going through their breaking, you have another level of understanding. When you see yourself and others, you automatically want to help them out because you already see when you have the love of Christ in you and you see someone going through what you've already been through that storm, you've already been through that pain, you know what it takes to get out of it, and you know what it takes if you don't want to sit in it, you know the harm that it does to sit in it, and you want to be that person who can help them come out of it, you become relatable. Listen, your testimony helps others to get through their test. Your transparency and vulnerability will bring healing to others. Listen, it's what God wants us to be. He wants us to be able to relate to the people we're leading, that we're engaged to and with, those who we come in contact, whether you know them or not. Those that we come in contact with that God has placed in our path for a reason, for a testimony. You don't ever want to be an out of touch person that people who would see you as a leader, no matter what capacity you serve in, where people can't confide in you, they can't relate to you, and they feel that you can't relate to them. Where people feel that you're so out of touch with what is going on that you can't understand their pain. You may not be able to relate per se, but having empathy goes a long way. As you already know, this segment and this initiative that we launched is called Pain in the Pews: Mental Health and Ministry. And it's not going to be all the time that people understand others who are dealing with a mental health disorder. It's not all the time that people understand what they may be going through, the challenges that they're facing, but it is so powerful when a person has empathy, that they are cognizant of the things that they say out of their mouths that could be harmful or healing. People want to be able to relate and have someone that can relate to them. The Bible tells us that we don't have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weakness, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet he did not sin. That's in Hebrews 4:15. Jesus himself set the example. He set the example for us to be empathetic because he understood what it meant to be broken, what it meant to serve while broken, while people were saying horrible things about him and to him. He knew what it meant to serve, and to serve with empathy, to serve while broken. But then there's a foundation to build upon. Building on a solid foundation is so key. God is going to bring you to people who you can help. Your calling is in your crisis. I'll say it again. Your calling is in your crisis. Many of us have testimonies. Many of us have been through things where we can attest to the fact it was only God. It was only God that got us out of that car wreck. It was only God that helped us through that mental health crisis. It was only God that could have seen us through that divorce or that breakup or that separation. And it doesn't have to be a marital one. It could be one that was a friendship. It could have been a person that you loved that passed away. It was only God. And your calling is in your crisis. When you can lend your voice to someone else during the hardest time of their life because you're not in the midst of it, you've already come out of it and you have the ability, the equipment, the strategies, tips, tools, and techniques that you can tell them through your experience being led by God. This is how, my brother, my sister, you can make it. Your hard times will birth the greatest visions in your life that can help others. Your brokenness allows you to bring service to others. Let me say it again. Your brokenness allows you to bring service to others. Jesus blessed the bread, he broke the bread, and then he served the bread to the disciples. The disciples ate the bread that was broken. Listen, people are going to be blessed from your brokenness. Stop avoiding, stop covering, and stop denying your brokenness. It's okay that you are broken. God uses the broken. But the most amazing, the most powerful, the most illuminating thing that stands out in this whole process is that the breaking takes place in the hand of Jesus. Therefore, you are in the best hands to be capable to withstand the breaking, no matter who initiated the breaking. Your breaking point happens in the hand of Jesus. So if you're like Mephibosheth, where someone along the lines dropped you, it's okay. Stop avoiding, stop covering, and stop denying your brokenness. It's okay that maybe in your brokenness you developed a limp in the time of your brokenness. It's okay because that limp, that spiritual limp, that emotional limp will one day start your strength will be regained. You'll start to do emotional and spiritual PT, physical therapy, where you begin to work out that spiritual muscle. You begin to pray more about, Lord, why is this? What am I to learn from this? Show me what I'm missing. If I continue with this limp, show me how to strengthen myself through this breaking, through this brokenness, through this hurt that I'm experiencing. Yes, it hurt. But I know that if I go through this spiritual PT, I will get through this. I know that if I only see the hand of Christ on this situation, I know I can get through it. We overcome by the word of by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. Sharing what we've been through is not a bad thing. But I promise you, it will strengthen you in that physical, in that emotional and spiritual physical therapy. When you're going through what seems like your hardest time, you can begin to flex those spiritual muscles and get in your word and recognize what it is that I'm missing in my calling, in my gifting, in my purpose, in my serving while broken, tears flowing, but broken, but serving in my purpose, serving in what God has ordained and anointed me to do. Is it easy? Have you ever been through PT? Have you ever been to physical therapy? No, it's not easy. Is it worth it? Absolutely. Is it powerful? Absolutely. Is it fulfilling? Absolutely. Because listen, you have a purpose, and we cannot allow, I cannot allow what seems like the end of a or an unfair, that not an end, an unfair situation where you're serving while broken, especially when who you're serving or what you're serving is where or what hurt you or who hurt you. Because think about it, when Jesus broke bread with his disciples, there were those at the table that he knew were going to betray him, but he served. He knew that he couldn't be with them always, but he served. He knew that there was going to be those that were at that table that were going to play a role in his brokenness, but yet he served. He served while broken. And so we find, even in our lives, even in our daily walk, that there's a blessing that God has pronounced over our lives even before we were born. There is a breaking, because in everything, we want to stay humble. We want to stay humble before God. We want to stay in a position where we can look to and trust our sovereign God, right? But then there's the building, understanding that your purpose, your calling, your gift, your testimony is what is going to not only bless other people, it is going to be the platform on which you stand that is going to build a strong foundation of not only faith, but perseverance, strength, and oh my goodness, such a powerful level of faith in you, through you, for God. I know it's not the easiest thing, but is it necessary? Yeah, it is. It really is. There is a blessing, there is a breaking, but oh my gosh, there is a building of your strength, a building of your peace, a building of your ministry, of your calling, of your business, of your family, a building of you, a building of your own personal self-care. Because once you've been broken, you're tender around the things that you know broke you and that you know could potentially break others. So you're more tender, you're more empathetic, you're more sensitive to those things because you don't want to be broken like that again, and you don't want to see others broken. So what do? You start building. You start building your faith, you start building your testimony, you start building your resilience, working out that spiritual and emotional PT, because it's worth it. You are worth it. So I just want to share that with you on tonight. I hope that it has blessed you. Listen, I am elated to be with you all tonight, and I hope that you got something out of this experience on tonight. Listen, we'll be back on next Monday night, 7 o'clock p.m., same place, same time, different topic. But listen, we know that we are definitely built and equipped to serve while broken. God bless. I am your host, Chelselia Cookie Payne, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.